introduce our next presenter. I'm so grateful, also I'm so excited because as you hold the agenda the last week and this week, we talked a lot about job market and the legal issues or work authorization part and HR professionals' perspectives and global career opportunities also. Now, these two, the second and third sessions are about how we can communicate, how we can collaborate with internal partners on campus. One of the big topics for every career service people is how we can work with the faculty, right? So Lisa Andrews, Assistant Director of Career and Professional Development at American University, will talk about her example, her experience working with faculty members. Lisa, your stage.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Eunyoung. I appreciate that lovely introduction. Just as a means of housekeeping, if you have questions that come up, we'll put them in the parking lot, otherwise known as the chat. So go ahead and do that. Or, at the end of the presentation, if something comes up from the presentation, we can certainly address your questions at that time. So again, my name is Lisa Andrews. I am the Assistant Director of Career and Professional Development in the Office of Career Engagement at the Kogod School of Business at American University. That's the longest title I think I've ever had. But I'm also a proud member of the International Student Services Committee, and I would really encourage all of you to join. If you work with international students, it's an amazing group of professionals from across the country. And with the beauty of Zoom, I know a lot of you are maybe zoomed out, but with the beauty of Zoom, we've been able to regularly meet, join all of us together across the nation and come together to really develop initiatives, programming, and just share ideas professionally about how we work with international students. So, I would highly encourage you to join. It's a wonderful committee, great leadership opportunity for you, and certainly you can put it on your resume as well. So just a little bit about me. I spent about 20 years, the better part of 20 years in higher education, career services. I diverted a little bit into the private sector. I did a little work in nonprofits. I actually worked at a homeless shelter for a while in career services, which was quite a challenge, as you may imagine. And over the years, I've had the opportunity to work with a good number of international students, so it's definitely a great interest of mine. I've been at Kogod almost 2 years. Kogod School of Business has its own career center apart from our centralized American University Career Center. So, we do serve students in the business school, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that, I believe, on the next slide. Just briefly about the Office of Career Engagement, we are separated into two kind of entities, one being employer relations and the other advising. So I'm on the advising side, and there are 4 advisors, 1 for MBAs, 2 for undergraduates, and then I advise all of the specialty master's programs. So such things as accounting, taxation, analytics, sustainability management, and so on. So that just kind of gives you a little thumbnail sketch about the Office of Career Engagement, because I will be talking a lot about them. So now you can kind of visualize who we are. So the objectives for today will be a very brief overview of the international student community at Kogod. So kind of the reason why all of this kind of happened. I'll review what I'm calling the genesis of the course. So how did this even come about? I'll review what I'm calling the nuts and bolts of the course. So you'll actually get a bird's eye view into what we actually did in the course. Hopefully that will spark some inspiration in you to develop something at your own institution or refine something that you already have. And of course, we'll talk a little bit about lessons learned from the course and what the future of the course will be at Kogod. So to give you a picture of Kogod, our overall Kogod student population, which is undergrads and grads, is about 1,500 students. And of that 1,500, 539 Kogod students hold an F1 or J1 visa. That's how I'm kind of defining international student. We also have about 64 countries represented but the majority of our international student population comes from China. So that's kind of where we are. I would say the second highest would be from India. And then from there, we have many other countries, as you can see, 64 represented, but the majority of our international student population does come from China. So the genesis of the course. So it originated actually in the Dean Suite. And I would say at KOGOD, in the Dean Suite, there's a great concern and care for international students at in the school. I think that our leadership is very sensitive to the needs of international students. They recognize that international students make up a very significant chunk, as you saw from the numbers, of our overall student population in KOGOD. So I would say there's a great sensitivity to the needs and concerns and issues that unique needs, concerns, and issues that international students kind of bring to the table. And certainly one of those concerns is employment, career development, professional development. And so it was kind of recognized in the Dean Suite that while we did already offer many services to our international students, something needed to be done at the curricular level as well to really kind of bring into focus the fact that faculty and staff together can work together to bring the students a course that incorporated a little bit of academics and a little bit of student development as well, to really kind of give them an additional support that encompassed both faculty and staff. So it was kind of, thought of that the students needed this information, and if we brought faculty in it and attached credit to it, it would be really attractive to students, and it would really impact students and hopefully inspire other students to take the course as well. So really it started in the Dean Suite, which I think is significant as well. And it's great that we have that upper level support for the course. And it really kind of drove the course forward. If it comes from the Dean Suite, it's most definitely going to happen, right? And so a faculty member was approached and developed the curriculum. And then they reached out to our office, the Office of Career Engagement. And of course, we contributed a significant amount of content to the course, as well as our staff. So our staff participated in facilitating and teaching elements of the course, a couple of sections of the course content. We also have an office in KOGOD called the Center of Business Communication. And that is, as you can see here, a coaching and tutoring service that builds the communication skills of all KOGOD undergraduate and graduate students. And so this center advises students alongside of the Office of Career Engagement on their presentation skills. So if they have a PowerPoint coming up, they have a cachet of peer advisors that can meet with students to go over their PowerPoint. They talk about presentation skills as well, because at KOGOD there are a lot of presentations. The students have to give a lot of team presentations. So this office really helps them really prepare for that. And so they contributed content as well, and staff. And our Office of International Student Development, which also contributed content and staff to the course. So ta-da, here's the course, KSB 496-696, which is Business Culture, Leadership, Public Speaking, and Career Development. One of the longest course titles I think we have in KOGOD. It was 3 credits. And it was open to both undergraduate and graduate international students in KOGOD. And in the spring, which is when the course debuted, 27 took the course. And by way of description, the course provides instruction and resources for international students, focusing on business culture and strategic thinking, as well as leadership development and public speaking. Additionally, it covers personal branding, career development, resume building, networking, and job search. That's a lot in 16 weeks or so. There are multiple learning objectives for the course. First, to integrate students' understandings of strategy into various business projects and functions. So that's where the faculty kind of really came in. Intentionally engage students in strategic thinking. Strengthen the professional development capabilities of students. Enhance students' career development. Augment students' business communication skills, expose students to organizational leadership and executive management styles, sensitize students to career paths open in different industries, develop an understanding of creative thinking and innovation process, sensitize students to business culture and cultural diversity. So as you can see, it's a lot. There was a lot that kind of went into this course, and certainly multiple offices and folks needed to be included so that we could execute all of these course objectives. So here are the elements of the course. So the Office of Career Engagement course content consisted of resumes and online profiles, which includes LinkedIn, as well as we use the platform called Handshake, and Handshake enables students to search for jobs and internships as well as events. And that's considered an online profile to us because employers can also view it when it is made public. We also contributed information about elevator pitch and networking, job search strategy and cover letters, and interviewing. We also, our director of career and professional engagement facilitated a session, as well as 3 assistant directors, including myself. Our Center for Business Communication, or CBC, course content included business writing and public speaking overview, public speaking best practices, and how to write and deliver a pitch. So again, as you can see, we covered elevator pitch. They also covered it from their angle as well. Our offices work very closely together. And their director and associate director also helped to facilitate the course as well. I'm going to be focusing on the Office of Career Engagement content, of course, because all of us are in career services. But to continue with the course elements, the faculty person delivered content on culture and cultural diversity, leadership, strategic thinking and strategy, strategic decision-making, and creative thinking and innovation process. So since the course was graded, our office contributed graded assignments, and out of 100 points, they did account for 15 points. So for the resume assignment, and the students were given the assignments as pre-deliverables to the course, post-deliverables to when the content was taught. So after the resume session was taught, they were given the VMOC assignment to be due for the next class. So VMOC is an artificially intelligent resume review platform that we use. Many of you probably use it as well. And we have a template in COGOD in terms of resumes, both undergrad and grad. So students upload their resume to VMOC and it kind of evaluates it and gives the students a score. Of course, 100 is a perfect score. We would like them to achieve a resume score of 65 or better with a 30 for 30 on presentation, which indicates that they followed the basic template format. So that was their resume assignment. In terms of online profiles, 2 elements to this. They were to update their Handshake profile to 85% completion. Of course, 100% completion is fully. They were to use the Aspire module of VMOC to achieve a LinkedIn profile score in the yellow or green zone, with green, of course, being a perfect LinkedIn profile. They were to generate a lamp list of 10 plus companies. And this comes from Steve Dalton's The 2-Hour Job Search book. I recommend it for any of you who have not read the book. It's a nice, easy beach read, a couple of hours, you can finish it. And he recommends what's called a lamp list. So we ask the companies, and we ask the students to complete a lamp list. And I'll talk a little bit more about that. They had to create a tailored cover letter and complete a big interview assignment that we put together. Big Interview is an artificially intelligent interview platform where students can practice using their camera and their audio, interview questions on a variety of topics. That's a very thumbnail sketch of Big Interview. It does a lot more than that. But so for resumes and online profiles, we recognize that competencies presented on a US resume may be different than what's valued in other countries. For example, teamwork, leadership, communication. So as an exercise, we brainstormed competencies employers like to see on resumes outside the US. We really wanted to bring that cultural comparative element to the course and get them to kind of brainstorm and contribute what they feel like is important to include on a resume and see how they would differ, which was very interesting. We also use the Vault guides, which we offer through Handshake, to identify 5 hard skills and 5 soft skills needed for their chosen industry. And we used breakout rooms to brainstorm bullet points for their resume. We also recognized for them that resume formats differ among various countries. For example, introducing the notion that a resume is not a CV, which is what it may be in other countries. We introduced them to our templates, and we introduced them to the VMOC system. And we introduced, we walked them through the Handshake resources section to help them identify where the templates were located. So it's very hands-on, I would say. And then we introduced the concept of a virtual brand. So for the next class was elevator pitch and networking. This is actually the class I taught. I introduced the concept and elements of an elevator pitch. And as an exercise, I broke them into breakout rooms with a partner to brainstorm their elevator pitch and then rate each other on flow, length, engaging, whether they kept it real or not. And these were all elements that I introduced to them when I talked about the concept of an elevator pitch, all of these elements. And then we had each student recite their elevator pitch to the class, so they really got to practice their skills. And that's a good developmental opportunity for them as well to kind of be on that stage, even though it was just Zoom. I'll introduce a little bit of nervousness there. And then I introduced the concept of networking, acknowledging the need for students to build their US network of professionals, and we talked about how to do that. As a couple of exercises, I had them go to LinkedIn to identify an alumni from KOGOD in their chosen field. And I also used Jamboard to do a group activity, and I'll show you what that is in one second. I also discussed the importance of a LinkedIn profile and the elements of a completed profile. And as an exercise, I demonstrated how to convert to an English language profile because many of them had profiles in their own home language. So this was my Jamboard activity. Jamboard.com is a great element if you're working in Zoom and you want to do a collaborative document. You can create what's called a Jamboard. And everyone that downloads the Jamboard, you put the link in the chat, and everyone that downloads the Jamboard is able to actively write on the Jamboard at the same time, and everyone can see it. So I entered in all the students' names, and what they were to do is to indicate 2 things that they were looking for. For example, I'm looking for an internship in marketing, or something fun. I'm looking for a sushi restaurant in DC. So each person entered those 2 items, and then I instructed them to look around the room and see where they could actually lend help. Then let's say Manuel would tell Ahmed, I can help you find an internship in marketing, and he would enter his name under Ahmed's name. So it was a way to show them and demonstrate that they actually do have a network just beginning in their own room. So it kind of demonstrates to them also that networking is a 2-way street. As we all know, you want to give something and get something in return when you're creating a networking relationship. So this was kind of a very interactive way. You know, if we were in person, I'd have Post-it notes and a giant board, and they would put Post-it notes where they could help each other. But with the advent of technology, we have to be as creative as possible. So we used Jamboard. So the next class was job search strategy and cover letters. And here we acknowledge that the job search strategy for international students differs from US students. And we taught the 3-pronged approach, which consists of searching for a job in the US, considering a job in your home country, and considering a job in other countries outside of your home country, as well as the US. So for an exercise, the instructor used Handshake to find an analytics full-time job in Boston and identify whether they sponsor visas. Next, they introduced the LAMP list concept, which emphasizes a targeted job search. And LAMP really means make a list of companies. Do they have alumni in those companies? What's your motivation to apply? And do they actually have positions available, yes or no? And what you do is create a spreadsheet, and then you can sort the spreadsheet and then determine your plan of action after you have created your LAMP list. So in their breakout room, we asked them to generate their list of companies and begin the LAMP list by using LinkedIn to identify alumni at each company. We also introduced the concept of cover letter construction, and we have a template in COGAD as well. So in the breakout room, they were assigned a resume, an incomplete cover letter, and a job description, and they had to correct the cover letter and report to the larger group. Now for interviewing, our director taught this course, and then all of the advisors participated. She taught interviewing fundamentals, including the types of interviews, star story construction, situation, task, action, result, interview process, video interview nuances, traditional interview questions, and what they should do to follow up. So in an exercise in breakout rooms, advisor facilitators, including myself, guided a discussion on students' past experiences with interviewing and their expectations of interviews to kind of create a baseline. Then also in breakout rooms, using an interview handout that was placed in the chat, they were to brainstorm 5 star stories from that interview handout and then share with their peers and get feedback on that. Also, they practiced interviewing in breakout rooms as well. There was a handout where the advisor would ask an interview question, tell me about yourself or something like that. The student would answer the question using their star story. Peers would provide feedback on answers, and also the advisor facilitator would offer feedback. In terms of course feedback and lessons learned, there was really overwhelmingly positive student feedback from the course. One student anecdotally stated, I got a job on campus, and the information I learned in the course helped me get that job. We also had increased student traffic to OCE, which was both a blessing and a curse. The curse, blessing is, of course, you always want to have students walk through your door. So that was a good thing. However, most of them walked through the door because they were having a lot of trouble with the assignments. And when I say trouble with the assignments, they had trouble with the technology. In this course and in our office, we use a lot of technology. I used a lot of buzzwords: VMOC, Aspire, big interview, handshake. And, you know, when you're entering college to begin with, these things can be overwhelming. And so to have everything you do be online, you know, can be a little bit overwhelming. So at times, the students were kind of confused about, well, I don't really know, I can't figure out VMOC, I'm only getting a 60. How do I get a 65? You know, I can't get 30 for 30 on presentation. How do I do that? You know, so they were very kind of frustrated with the technology overview overall. So I wouldn't say that the traffic to our office was necessarily developmental. It was more tech support than anything. So in the future, we learned a lot from that. In the future, we'd probably do more live demos of the technology and provide a lot more detailed instructions for the assignments. So some of them were graduate students, but they were new graduate students. So they had not yet been introduced to the technology, because you might be thinking to yourself, well, this is offered to undergrads and grads. Don't they already know what the technology is? And for many of them, they really didn't know what the technology was. As many of you know, not all students darken the door of career services immediately upon stepping on campus. So not all of them were familiar with all the nuances of our technology and may have used Handshake, but really never darkened VMOC's door. So in a lot of ways, they were new to all of this, and they really needed to be provided with a lot more tech support. So that was kind of a mistake we made in not really demonstrating the technology with them during class, although we tried to incorporate it, as you saw in many of the exercises, you know, going to LinkedIn and, you know, and that sort of thing, just kind of introducing them to the technology in terms of Handshake and so on. But we could have done a better job of that. So that's definitely something we would do in the future. And it's likely to be offered in the future. It's next slated for, it will actually now not be offered in the fall, but it will be offered in the spring of 2022. So I would say that it also really reinforced the positive image of the Office of Career Engagement within COGAD, from the Dean Suite to the faculty. And I would also include the Center for Business Communication in this as well. I think we already had a pretty good reputation within COGAD in terms of serving our international students. As you know, they have a lot of challenges when it comes to their career development and literally finding a job. And certainly we're very sensitive to those needs, and we're serving them quite well. But I think it definitely, reinforced kind of our positive image and could spawn other courses in the future. We don't currently have a career development course, although we are involved with several of the undergrad business courses. So this could definitely lead to bigger and better things in terms of course collaborations, which would be ideal. And it brought into focus more programming and resources geared toward international students in the Office of Career Engagement. So I actually developed an international student resource guide inspired by my membership on the International Student Services Committee. We have an International Pathways to Employment program where we coordinate with where Office of Career Engagement coordinates with our academic advisors. We coordinate with our Office of International Student Development, and also our International Student Services Office on campus as well. And we present kind of an overview of the employment picture for international students. So we talk about the visa lottery, we talk about, CPT and OPT, we talk about the three-pronged job search, we talk about the LAMP list. So it's an overall, and also important academic advising, deadlines and do's and don'ts that the students need to know. So that's an annual program that we do twice a year. It's a biannual program. Is that the right word, biannual? Twice a year. We also did an international career networking series where we, and again, the beauty of Zoom and, just coordinating time zones, really, we had panels from India, Pakistan, Africa, China, Singapore, Hong Kong, and Latin America, where we had panels of alums from these countries who had successfully navigated their job search and perhaps the visa process as well at one time during their professional career. And we brought them together for our international students to kind of get inspired and see that our alums are definitely successful. They've successfully navigated the job market and process, and the students can do it too. So it was a great way to connect them in a networking format with the alums. So we had a panel and then breakout rooms with the alums so the students could share LinkedIn information and ideas and tips. And they were really a great series of programs. So this it really elevated our programming for international students and kind of inspired us to be more mindful of our international students. I would say some key takeaways from this initiative, this course, would be that, for one, I think international student development is a community responsibility. As I said, in the genesis of this course, it kind of started in the Dean Suite. So ideally at your institution, if you have support from your dean, VP, whatever level you're dealing with, it's ideal to have everyone dialed in and recognize that we're all partners in this, and creating those partnerships across campus and across your school between academic affairs and student affairs can be really powerful. The second takeaway is that successful academic affairs and career services partnerships can be forged. I know a lot of faculty, even in the business school, you'd be surprised, a lot of faculty can be resistant to career development. They want to just talk about the content in their courses, and they don't want to kind of sell you that with anything related to career. But I think our faculty overall are pretty engaged with us and want to forge those partnerships. So it definitely can be done. And I think also it's really important to customize career development to, various student constituencies. And in this example, it would be international students. That one size definitely does not fit all. The job search is different for international students. There is a transition that needs to happen with their resumes, for example, their LinkedIn profiles, the way they interview, how they approach networking, the fact that networking is even done. For some of them, this is a completely new concept. So that in general, career content needs to be customized specifically for international students.